Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mythology Friday, installment 2 from home, distance learning style. This myth we're going to do today is called Pyramus and Thisbe. It comes from Babylon in the Middle East, so it is not originally Greek and it is not originally Roman. But both cultures adopted it as one of their stories. The most famous telling of it is from the Latin poet Ovid. Publius Ovidius Naso was his full name, and it is part of his Metamorphoses book, where he strings together all of the great myths of his time. Ovid was living and working under the patronage of the Emperor Augustus. So, the story begins in a duplex house, a house that shares one wall between two families, a two-family home, essentially. The families do not get along, and the boy and the girl are young teens, 13, 14 years old, Pyramus being the boy and Thisbe being the girl. And they have kind of started having crushes on each other at school and out in town, and they have a strong attraction to each other and really want to spend time together, but their families forbid it. But they're determined to spend time together, and they discover that there's a little hole in the wall in their bedrooms, between their two bedrooms, that they can whisper through and go look through and talk through at night. So they begin to have conversations there at night, and at the end of the conversations they give each other a kiss through the wall. And so night after night after night, little do their parents know that they're communicating and developing a relationship. And they decide that they can't stand to be separated anymore by this wall even. They want to be together. So they make a plan to run away out of their houses at night and meet somewhere so that they can be together and be alone. They decide to meet at a tomb of a man named Ninus, who I guess has a famous tomb in the area. Must have been a wealthy guy. And they will do it at night, so no one will see them. And it's by a fountain or a spring where fresh water is coming out. They make the plan also that they'll leave at two separate times. One of them will go one direction, the other will go the other direction, and meet at the tomb. So, the night comes for their plan, and Thisbe goes first, and she wears a veil around her face so no one would be able to recognize her if anyone happened to be out there. And she makes the kind of lonely and a little bit scary walk through the dark night and arrives at the tomb. Now, I don't know about you, but a tomb is kind of a spooky place to meet, right? If I told you, meet me at the graveyard at 11 p.m., you'd be a little freaked out, probably. So she's, understandably nervous, and she gets to the tomb first. Now, near the tomb is a tree, and it's called a mulberry tree, and it has beautiful white fruit. So there she is. She's near the spring, the tomb, and the tree, and she's waiting. And then Thisbe sees something she could never have expected to see, something terrifying. A lion. A lion is right there in front of her, 20 paces away. She's terrified, of course. She runs. She runs into a nearby cave. And as she's running, her veil drops on the ground. Now the lion, I guess, had just eaten fresh prey because its teeth were bloody. And like any cat would do, right? Sees a random piece of cloth or string or something, it wants to play with it. So the lion goes up to the veil that she had dropped and thrashes it around in its mouth. and gets it bloody, and then just leaves it there on the ground and proceeds to go drink some fresh water from the spring. Then, of course, Pyramus arrives at the scene. He sees no Thisbe. He calls her name. She can't hear him. She's hiding in the cave. And then he's getting afraid, and he looks around, and he sees on the ground her scarf. He recognizes her scarf, her veil, and he picks it up off the ground, and it's torn and bloody. And he sees the tracks of the lion in the ground. And he assumes only one thing. He's come too late. The lion, or some big animal, has killed the love of his life. He shouts out to the heavens, "Oh, how could you have done this to me? Oh, what a terrible night." And he walks over by the tree, and in total desperation, blaming himself for being too late, he takes his sword or dagger that he had carried with him, and he plunges it into his chest. And he falls to the ground in pain and dying. Cut over to Thisbe, who is now feeling like it might be safe. She comes out of the cave and walks back towards the tomb where they were supposed to meet. But as she's walking back towards the tomb, very carefully looking around for the lion, doesn't see the lion, she sees a shadow on the ground, and she walks over to it. It's Pyramus. He has a sword in his chest. She runs to him. "What have you done? What have you done?" And he's barely alive. He's able to whisper a little bit. He says, "I thought you had been killed. I thought I was too late." She says, No, I had just run and hidden. I saw a lion." And at that point, Pyramus draws his last breath and holds on to Thisbe and dies. She takes the sword out of his chest. The blood spurts up like a fountain. It lands in the soil near the tree. The blood so fresh and so dark. It goes into the roots of the tree, and the tree transforms its fruit from white to dark blood red. From that day forward, the mulberry tree has dark red fruit. She is so upset and so sad as his dead body lies there that she looks up into the stars and says, "Tonight we'll see the death of two young lovers." And she plunges his sword into her chest, and she too kills herself. And there they are, both lying dead tragically. Of course, the next day they're discovered, their dead bodies are discovered. Their parents had been worried about them. There was a search party. They discovered the two dead bodies lying next to each other, close together. So obviously they had done this together. And the parents of both families blame themselves. "Oh my gosh, we should have just let them be together. Look what we made happen." And so the parents are devastated, of course, and realizing that these two truly loved each other, that these two truly were willing to follow each other into death, the two families agree that in their honor they'll bury them together in one tomb. And so the two lovers, Pyramus and Thisbe, are buried together in the same tomb and are there for eternity. So, that's the story of Pyramus and Thisbe. Does it sound familiar to you? If so, how? And is there anything that you heard in this myth that could apply to your life today in 2020? I often find that these myths have timeless truths that span over the millennia. It doesn't matter if you were human 2,000, 3,000 years ago when this myth was conceived. It doesn't matter if you're human now, that there are common threads in our human experience that span over time. So I'm wondering if there's anything in this myth that you could relate to your life today. Now, today is not required work because it's technically it's going to be a teacher work day, and the students, you have time to do any makeup work that you're missing from the last couple weeks, to get your bearings about you, and have some time to reflect on what we've done over the last couple weeks of distance learning. So this is optional, but if you'd like, please leave me a comment and talk about the connections you made with this myth and other stories, or with this myth and your life. So have a great weekend, everybody. It's been another challenging week balancing our home lives and our school lives, but I know that you're all getting through it. So take care, and I will see you soon.